I see mask people.
On Halloween? Medical face masks? You mean like at the dentist or the hospital, the doctor's office?
Walking and driving with no other people.
They think it stops the spread of viruses. And they scream at you if you don't wear one. They don't know about Event 201.
How often do you see them?
All the time. They're everywhere.
Love this air. Oh, this is such wonderful air.
It's Lucy and Jeff going for walks and talks, talk about banksters and Bitcoin and COVID and stuff. It's Lucy and Jeff and tacos and kisses. Do you see masked people, Lucy? Yeah, I see them all over the place. I don't know how you can eat tacos with those masks. We'll give kisses. I'd like to thank Media Bear again for that intro. He also did you can wear a mask if you want to. The other day, I forgot to even mention that in the video. He's been putting out some great stuff. Got the link down below. If you don't know the channel, go over and subscribe to it. He puts out tons of great stuff. And speaking of mask people, Vanna, I'll take you. But let me get this straight. So there's no cure for a virus that can be killed by hand sanitizer and dish soap. Really? Very interesting. So I'm actually here in Villahermosa in Tabasco State, Mexico. Actually here by accident. We were trying to go to Paraíso, but ended up here. And our air conditioner on the RV on our first trip died on the first day. So we've been getting that repaired here this morning, and then we're moving on. It's actually at the south of the Gulf of Mexico down here. But anyway, speaking about all this craziness and everyone wearing masks. Not everyone here is wearing masks, but there's definitely a fair amount. So this came out from the New York Post. Americans will wear masks for several years due to the COVIDs. Health experts won't ask Americans to take off their masks anytime soon. That's the take of Eric Toner, a senior scholar at the Johns Hopkins Center for Health Security. Johns Hopkins, by the way, has been working with Bill Gates on this whole scam. They were at Event 201, so it's sort of another nefarious organization. He's been preparing for an outbreak like the novel coronavirus as part of his work for years. Oh, I'm sure he has. I'm sure he has. Johns Hopkins practices virus simulations. Yep, as part of his preparedness protocol, with the goal of offering public health experts and policymakers a blueprint for what to do in a pandemic. One of those simulations took place in October 2019, Event 201, when Toner and a team of researchers launched a coronavirus pandemic simulation in New York, running through various scenarios and how residents, governments, and private businesses would hypothetically react to the threat. One thing that stood out to him: face coverings are a vital defense to stop the spread of the virus. He believes COVIDs won't slow down in the US, even as states start to slowly reopen. Yeah, 2-3 more years. Actually, I have some bad news for you, if you don't like the whole mask thing. The BBC, the British Broadcasting Corporation, which is the propaganda arm of the UK government, put out a little thing about what your life's going to be like for the next 5 years. And Max Egan of the Crow House, which is still on YouTube, but it's kind of hard to find. You actually have to type in AOD space scarecrow to find it. It's incredibly shadow banned, but he's still on YouTube, but you can find him on BitChute and Library, obviously. He went through what they foresee as our future.
One day the virus will subside. It could be eradicated. But even then, life will not simply return to the way it was before COVID-19. Spurred on by the coronavirus crisis, architects have been rethinking the buildings we inhabit. Of course, it's just since the coronavirus, isn't it? They haven't had this planned at all, have they? Okay, so you scroll down here. Meet Layla. Layla is of indeterminate race and age. It's 2025. Funny how that works, hey? March 31st, 2025 is when the whole procedure finishes.
By the year 2025, not only America, but the entire planet will be under the protection and the dominion of this power alliance.
It's 2025 and she works from home 4 days a week. It's been that way since the 2020 lockdown. Okay? They've been in lockdown since 2020 and it is now 2025. 6:30, she's on her way to work. Layla arrives at a building where she meets people, blah, blah, blah. Starting times of the company where she works are staggered to minimize the number of people arriving at the same time. No human contact. Her office days are mainly for meetings, gone are the days when she'd head to work, blah, blah, blah. Blah, 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 blah. On the ground floor, Layla pauses in front of a thermal body scanner to check her temperature is normal. Today she is 36.5. She passes. A camera used for facial recognition identifies her as a staff member. A security barrier opens. At no point does she touch anything. Layla is on a contactless pathway. The lift to her office on the 4th floor is voice activated. Touchless technology has replaced grubby buttons. The maximum occupancy is 2. Voice-acted elevators, folks. If you get locked out through social crediting, once it's all biometric and it's all run like this and it's all touchless, they know everything about you and everything you do and everything you say and everything you think. If you get locked out of the system due to being down on social credit points, your elevator won't even work in your building because it will be voice activated and your voice will be recognised. Layla moved to the suburbs with a friend after the lockdown in 2020. When the lockdown came, she thought working from home would only last a few weeks and that she'd manage with a laptop on the kitchen table. But when weeks turned into months and months turned into years, she knew she would need a home office. When weeks turned into months and months turned into years. What do you think of your new normal, folks? Is that what they want to do?
Yep. 2025 seems to be the year they all talk about as the ending of this. But they all kind of talk about and want the world to stay actually worse than it is right now for the next 5 years. And by the looks of it, they might get away with it. Although, I'll get to in a little bit here, a lot of protests are starting to really get quite large all over the world. But before we get into that, things that make you go, how big is 1%? In 1918, they say the Spanish flu killed 50 million people. With today's world population, it would be close to 1 billion people. That's 5.2%, 6% of the world's population died. If you believe it, I don't believe anything from back then. I don't believe anything from yesterday or today. Anything we've been told about history is lies. There's actually a lot of evidence that it was when they first started putting radios live and they actually vaccinated everyone who was in World War I, which that's the only way to get a virus, by the way, is for them to inject it in you. So they probably injected it into pretty much anyone who was in the war to kill them. And then they turn on the radio at the same time, and those frequencies really affect your body, and I think it made a lot of people sick. And they're actually doing the same thing right now with 5G. I'll get into that in a bit too. Let's go back to this graphic. In 2018, the seasonal flu killed 650,000 people. That's 0.009% of the world's population died. Experts said it was a typical year. In 2020, COVID 488,000 dead and counting, 0.006% of the world's population. And it says here, experts say the world is coming to an end, shut down all business, close the churches, ruin the world's economy. The only way this will stop is if enough people wake up, and it doesn't look like enough people are waking up. It's been like 8 months now. Now there is, there was about 100,000 people apparently in Montreal protesting all this. So that's very good. There's been protests all over the place, but there was a pretty good one in Liverpool in the UK. It was a smaller crowd, but a really good speech by this girl.
Our rights and our freedoms have been stripped away from us in the blink of an eye. Relationships and families have broken, individuals have suffered, children have suffered, men, women and children have been left to die alone without their loved ones by their side, all because of a manipulated chain of events. We've been deceived, we've been failed, and so many people, young and old, have been drilled with absolute fear. And it's that fear that's been driving this situation forward. The more fearful you are, the easier you are to be controlled and manipulated. As young people, we always say how much that we want to change the world. And if we really want to do it, we need to start looking up and out from those screens at the real world around us. Open our eyes and empower our young minds with knowledge. Question absolutely everything from social media to mainstream media to COVID-19. On the 19th of March 2020, the government website stated that the virus was downgraded from being a high consequence infectious disease. 4 days later, we went into lockdown. Why? The Health Secretary claims that 2 households can meet at a social distance in an outdoor public space, but not in a pub garden, even though a pub garden is an outdoor public space. In some restaurants, you must wear a mask when ordering takeout food, but not if you're ordering to sit in. But what's the difference? Are you wearing a mask because you are fearful of this virus and others around you? Or are you wearing a mask just because you've been told to in the places that you've been told to wear them out of fear of the consequences? Number 2, Operation Lockstep. Operation Lockstep is part of a wider document called Scenarios for the Future of Technology and International Development, written by the Rockefellers in 2010.
In Melbourne, it's been one of the craziest places, and Max Egan's done a really good job of covering all that. And I saw this image, I think Max posted it. It's time. May the great Melbourne rebellion of 2020 dwarf the Eureka Stockade and send shockwaves around the world. May Melbourne assert itself on the world stage as the city where the people rose up against this tyrannical beast and said no. We will not acquiesce to your oppression. We will not kneel to your false authority. We will not fall for your manipulation and covert aggression. Melbourne, may you rise to the occasion and show Australia and the world what you're really made of. May you show us why you call yourselves the Bush Rangers, the rebels, and the renegades. May you unleash the Melbourne storm. The big V is for victory, Melbourne's victory, over oppression, tyranny, and downright stupidity. A victory for all of us. What are you made of, Melbourne? No guts, no glory. By Jim Penman. I don't know who wrote that, but I know there was going to be a protest in Australia, an anti-mask or a no-mask protest. And the Gestapo, of course they're tracking all your communications and everything, tracked down the people leading the protest and in a pre-crime arrested them before they even did anything, like just go outside without a mask. So hopefully people in Melbourne or Australia in general, wake up right now. And I've been to Melbourne. I played poker in the Aussie Millions at the casino there, really nice casino. And you know, that Melbourne's got like 10 football teams, like Australian Football League teams and rugby teams. That's crazy. It'd be like New York or some town having 10 NFL teams, right? They love watching sports there. And all their team names are like the Bush Rangers and the Rebels and the Renegades. Yeah? Well, let's see if there's actually any real Rebels and Renegades in Melbourne and see if they rise up. So far, not much. So we'll see how many years. You know, as this goes on, people just get more and more used to it, and they'll be impoverishing people. People will be too weak and used to it in a few years. The whole world will basically just be like this forever. And your kids and your grandkids will ask you, what was it like back when you could do anything and you could leave your house and go to see a play or a football game? And you get to tell them, it was a lot better than this. And fortunately, we didn't do much about it. We were too weak and pathetic. So try to explain that to your grandkids if this all continues. But this isn't the first time they've done something like this. In fact, they do things like this all the time. In many ways, most things are kind of a bit of a scam. Anything to do with the medical system is a scam. Even things like cancer. Cancer is just your lymphatic system's clogged. And wherever it actually shows in the form of a tumor, they'll actually irradiate you, which mostly kills everything in your body, when all you really needed to do was do a fast and maybe a coffee enema, and that's about it. And that gets rid of almost everything, including cancer. But you're not allowed to tell anyone that because they make billions and billions and billions and billions of dollars off that industry. But this COVID isn't the first. In fact, Fauci already has done the exact same thing about 40 years ago. The guys, like many of these guys, they just never go away. But he did this exact same thing in the 1980s. This is an excerpt from a video. A deadly new virus is discovered. There's no treatment or cure. It's highly contagious. Everyone is a potential victim. The world is at risk from asymptomatic super spreaders. New clusters of cases are reported daily. Everyone must get tested, even though the tests are unreliable. Positive antibody tests are called infections and cases, even when the patient has no symptoms. Every politician gets involved. Media hysteria in high gear. Activists demand salvation from government and big pharma. Billions of dollars are authorized for fast-track drug and vaccine research. Simple, effective remedies are rejected while expensive, dangerous ones are pushed. Presumptive diagnosis, exaggerated death statistics, falsified death certificates. Is that COVID 2020? Nope. That was AIDS in the 1980s. I brought this up a few times, how AIDS was already their first sort of attempt at this. Do you remember AIDS? I do, because it came out just as I hit puberty. So I hit puberty, and of course, all these hormones are raging. I'm looking at all the girls at school, and all of a sudden, AIDS. And if you have sex, you're gonna die. Yeah, I wasn't very happy about that. And then, Magic Johnson had it, so he had to quit playing basketball, even though he still looks awesome. Just saw him last year. And people in Africa keep getting it, because they just keep injecting them with stuff over there and killing them, basically. It's a total genocide going on in Africa. Bill Gates is part of that. Yeah, interesting stuff. And it's been 40 years now, and I've never known anyone who has had AIDS. In fact, AIDS is, again, another scam. What they say AIDS is your immune system stops working. Well, your immune system can stop working for a number of reasons, including that you're taking a ton of crazy drugs all the time, doing all kinds of very unhealthy things. Your immune system is basically destroyed. And that's what they call AIDS. In fact, HIV is never, just like the COVID virus, it's never actually been identified. But Oprah Winfrey back in the 80s said something around 1/3 of the world's population, which is like 2 billion people, will be dead in the next 4 or 5 years, I think she said. Typical propaganda, fear-mongering. And I remember back then it was huge. Everyone, so many people, just so scared of getting the AIDS. Yeah, just like the COVIDs. No one seems to have it. I've never yet to meet anyone who even said they had a cold or a flu in the last few months, much less the COVIDs, which is basically the cold or the flu. You know, the average age of COVID deaths is 79.5 years, and the average human life expectancy is 78.6 years. Sounds like you get to live longer if you get the COVIDs. Meanwhile, I love watching these NASCAR drivers totally risking their lives, going 400 kilometers an hour. I don't know how fast, like a missile. But they got their masks on because they're afraid of a virus with a 0.04% mortality rate. Actually, that number is way off. It's 0.0002, I believe, according to the CDC. So that's a bit of fake news there. There's actually no one dying of this virus except for 90-year-old people. I don't know if you've been into a place with 90-year-old people before. They rarely look all that good. They look like they're going to die at any second. But anyway, I want to get back to the AIDS a little bit. There's actually a documentary out. I haven't watched the whole thing yet, but it looks like it has a good title, AIDS, Fauci's First Fraud.
Finally, as you I'm sure have read in the papers, given the fact that we now have the virus in our hands, it is quite possible, in fact it's invariable, that we will develop a vaccine for AIDS.
I happen to be one now of the few people who was there literally from the very first week that this was recognized as a new disease.
In the summer of 1981, the virus was discovered in the spring of 1983 and proven to be the cause.
Discovered by whom?
By Francois Barré-Sinoussi and Luc
was the Nobel Prize awarded to people who...
Yes. It was discovered by one group in France, but proven definitively to be the cause of AIDS by Bob Gallo here when he was at the NIH.
First, the probable cause of AIDS has been found, a variant of a known human cancer virus. Second, not only has the agent been identified, but a new process has been developed to mass produce this virus. Thirdly, with discovery of both the virus and this new process, we now have a blood test for AIDS. With the blood test, we can identify AIDS victims with essentially 100% certainty.
You know, it was a political proclamation of scientific truth. Robert Gallo successfully lobbied Margaret Heckler, who was then the Secretary of Health and Human Services, to proclaim his view of what caused AIDS to be absolute scientific truth. And she went on with him in tow and announced that. The conference was held before any of Robert Gallo's papers were published, therefore before any other scientist had a chance to review them and look at the evidence and see if he got it right or wrong. And it was also done right when Gallo had patented the HIV antibody test. So they made sure that his patent rights were protected first, then they did the press conference, and then, before Gallo's papers appeared in print, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services decided from now on we are only going to fund AIDS research that assumes that Robert Gallo's virus is the cause. We are not going to fund research into any other possibilities. Therefore, the scientists who might have wanted to critique Gallo's papers would not be able to do so, at least not with anything supported by the federal government, which is virtually all science in this country today.
When Bob Gallo proved that it was the etiologic agent in 1984, we had a diagnostic test approved by the FDA in 1985. So the test was developed, it was gone through the appropriate validation and approved by the FDA. That was really quick, from literally less than a year from the time that it was shown to be the virus that causes this disease.
We'll have the link to it down below. It'll probably be deleted off YouTube, so try to find it on BitChute or wherever. And, you know, I'm actually enjoying the COVIDs like a ton. I'm making a ton of money. Everywhere I go, it's basically empty. It's like we have the whole place to ourselves. Yeah, I don't mind this too much. It'd be nice to see maybe a few other dogs from time to time, but hey, if they're too scared, more tacos for me. So, more and more I'm like, I'm in favor of this whole scam. Like, Kill Gates, amazing. You made it so I can go anywhere. There's nobody. There's no lines for anything. All my investments are skyrocketing. They'll go up even more now that they're printing trillions and trillions of dollars. Like, this has been the best gift Kill Gates could have ever given me. It's amazing. So thanks to Kill, thanks to Jesuit-trained Dr. Fauci. Thanks, guys. Like, you've made the world a much better place. It's like, I've got the whole place to myself, and soon everything's going to be so cheap because everyone's going to be bankrupted by this that I'll be able to buy private jets, private yachts for like almost nothing, especially in Bitcoin and Monero. So, yeah, thanks. This has been great. I've been having a great time. I rarely leave my house anyway, but when I do, like on these little trips, it's so nice that there's like no one around. It's like everyone's just gone. It's awesome. And soon with the vaccines, a lot of them will be really gone. So that'll be great. I'm looking forward to it. So it's been a great year. Thank you, Kill. But I want to get into what I think's probably going on here. There's like no one's getting this thing. And every now and then they say some people do, but we know most of them are lies. But it very well could be related to this rollout of the Cinco. Hey, I'm not going to say the word. There's a great website here that has some really interesting information. It's called The Connection Between Cinco Hay and the COVIDs by Dr. Robert Young. It says oxygen molecules have electrons that they share with each other. Oxygen is a diatomic molecule. What we breathe are two oxygen molecules bonded together with the electrons that they share. When the oxygen molecule is hit with 60 gigahertz Cinco Hay waves, these waves affect the orbital resonance properties of those shared electrons. It is those shared electrons that bind to the hemoglobin in our blood. Figure 2 illustrates the atmospheric absorption for millimeter wave frequencies. When the oxygen is disrupted, it will no longer bind to the hemoglobin and myoglobin, oxygen-carrying molecules, and therefore the red blood cell will not be able to carry oxygen to the cell's powerhouse membrane. Without oxygen, the liver becomes congested and the body and brain begins to break down due to slow suffocation. Because the brain is the body organ most sensitive to the lack of oxygen, not getting enough oxygen to the brain will result in brain hypoxia. And it talks a little bit about Cinco Hay and vitamin D, which I've also talked about. It says another factor is Cinco Hay will affect the body's ability to produce vitamin D and can cause paralysis, arrhythmia, neurological problems, problems with tingling in the extremities, people passing out, having fatigue, malaise, all of these bizarre ailments. So I think they knew that the Cinco Hay can do this to people. And so I think they tied it in with this fake virus idea to basically bring in all of their agendas all at once. And some people, yeah, they might be getting sick and they can't breathe. It's because of the Cinco Hay, which Elon Musk is putting thousands of satellites up right now. They're actually putting out so much, putting it all up right now while most people are locked in their houses. I think that will probably be the second wave as they turn on more of it. More people get sick, not everyone, because some people are so healthy that if you cut off like 70, 80% of their blood supply, they're still okay. But, and obviously some people won't be living near these towers, but many people won't be doing well. And this is actually going to depopulate quite a bit of the population, which is all part of Kill Gates. He's a eugenicist, and Ted Turner and Warren Buffett and George Soros, all these guys doing that. What'd you find there, Lucy? I don't know, it smells good though. I'm gonna roll around in a little bit. I am a bit of a street dog. So anyway, I'll have the link to that Cinco Hay article down below. It's very interesting, but I think that's generally what's going on. And you know, there are ways to protect yourself from all these frequencies, just so you know. I actually did a whole Anarchast interview with David Giesel on it. I'll put a link to it down below on how Wi-Fi, 4G, and Cinco Hay all affect our bodies in various ways, and how you can actually cut those down. First of all, you can get a meter on their site, and it'll tell you which parts of your house have high readings, and then you can either reorganize things, put other stuff up, put up some like blinds. They actually even sell curtains and stuff to block those rays, so at least in your house you're not getting it. So you might get it when you're out and about if you still live in a city, which I highly don't recommend right now. This is basically a massive genocide they're planning here. So I'd get out of most of those places until they're done. But yeah, you can get them at, I think it's slt.ca. I'll put the link down below. We actually have it on our resources page. So you can go to dollarvigilante.com/resources, and it's on there. It's SLT is the name of the company, I believe. And you get some sort of discount if you use our code. It's on that resource page. So I'll put it there on screen right now if we can find it. And yeah, so good times, good times. Kind of like, you know, right now most places are pretty empty, which is great. Like no more traffic. It's gonna be awesome. But there's still a lot of zombies walking around with the masks. So they're starting to asphyxiate them already. So they'll be gone fairly soon. And then, yeah, we got the whole place to ourselves. So it's going to be a whole new world, new world order. It's going to be pretty interesting. But of course, you can protect yourself in so many ways and get cryptocurrencies, precious metals. Lucy, Ben? Lucy. Those sort of things. All our investments are going up dramatically. You can go to dollarvigilante.com/subscribe. Sign up to the Crypto Vigilante as well. We still haven't released that new coin, so if you want to get in, just go, we'll have a link to that down below where you can sign up to the Crypto Vigilante. And yeah, we're about to take off to further east. What do you think, Lucy? Yeah, sounds good. Sounds good. There's not many things here to chase, but you know, let's hop in the RV. Hopefully they got the air conditioning fixed. That was pretty hot. And let's get some tacos. And I got the cushions.
Wait, this video just scratched the surface. The attacks from big government and central banks are just starting. To survive today's economic chaos, you need to understand topics ranging from Bitcoin and cryptocurrency to the latest misinformation from the Federal Reserve, what the central banks are up to, and how big government is encroaching on your life. Subscribe to this channel now, and don't forget to click the bell beside the subscribe button to make sure you never miss a single video. Take responsibility for your own future and make your personal world a better place. Share this video with your friends and subscribe now. We're all in this together.